Alright guys, Scrappy again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Kenny's former team, the Los Angeles Thieves, took down Seattle Surge last night to advance to 5-1 in this qualifier stage. Their final game of the stint is against OpTic Texas themselves this upcoming Sunday. Kenny will certainly be hoping for no repeat of the events against Boston Breach last weekend's big referee drama during that series. And Kenny today reveals exactly what went on behind the scenes and why OpTic was so frustrated at what they perceived of them getting blamed by the CDL for their problem. Very much interested to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new, as always, I greatly appreciate it. First of all, here's aBeZy, MLG, Esports Engine, legend of the space, 22-year reunion here with Puckett on the left-hand side. What's next, he says. Now, there's been lots of talk about this because we know that currently the Esports is run by Esports Engine, but that's now part of the ESL, kind of like Saudi group, basically. They've got going on over there. aBeZy, I think his plan is to start another entity at some point, and obviously he has people in the know that could potentially make that work. The issue is that there's some sort of non-compete clause which is preventing aBeZy starting up an alternate production company that may well rise to prominence in the very near future. So there is talk about the timing of this because next year the CDL is probably going to change quite substantially in terms of the format, how it's run potentially. We know that the skeleton crews are everywhere nowadays. The amount of like actual production staff that attends the events is far fewer than it used to be. There used to be actually people employed by the CDL to do it. That isn't really the case anymore. It's all outsourced. We saw like the entire, let's say, observing crew get cut basically earlier on this season. So yeah, it's tough and there will be changes. Whether aDamap is the man and the timing works out for him to be the man to step in and, you know, make those changes a reality, I guess that remains to be seen. There's also been some talk about XDefiant. The game is launching very shortly on May the 21st and there's been some gameplay going down, you know, Team TP, Team Karma, lots of players getting involved. There has been some discussion. Will this be a kind of what Valorant was when Counter-Strike was obviously the dominant FPS and then Valorant was coming out from the Riot Games side? The early days of Valorant were effectively dominated by former CS players, either washed up CS players or those that didn't really achieve the heights they would have liked to, or like younger players that never quite got their shot in CS and turned out to be better in Valorant. Now, XDefiant, it depends massively on what the competitive scene is like, whether the game is any good, is it too clunky. I personally liked what I played of it, but that's a long time ago now, and people have mixed opinions on whether the gameplay, you know, whether they like it or not. I think what they're going for is fine. Whether there's a proper competitive scene, whether they have decent prize pools, that remains to be seen, but I do think there will be some former pros that are going to give this a go. They will make some sort of esports product around XDefiant because the game is designed to be played on a competitive level. It's been delayed massively, obviously, but it is finally going to be here in a week or so. And even if it is a grassroots scene with no crazy prize pools initially, Zero has said publicly that he intends to play. I think he even said that, you know, potentially Benjamin Bance might be interested in doing so as well. So, you know, you've got to look at a few players that are either former pros or are kind of on the verge of not getting back into the CDL, such as a guy like Bance. Maybe this actually makes a fair bit of sense. So I'm kind of excited for the prospect of that going forward. There's also been some drama and challenges, and maybe some of these guys could be in the conversation as well. We saw the other day that Assault is on Omit, now Brooklyn in place of Donny Temp, then like Temp, Capsidal, Mamba Dimensions, all teamless, and I think they were, you know, probably a couple of these guys thinking about teaming up together. Then though, more drama happened. So as Rostermania happened in challenges going into Toronto, Rostermania then happened again. Like the teams were kind of set, Rostermania had happened, the teams were locked in, and then it happened again, and they made more changes. So now Crazy's gone from this Arcetes Pro Luton Classic team. Capsidal is now with those guys going into Toronto. That leaves Temp in a pretty tough position. I know that Capsidal as well was roasting these guys in the Pro League and also in challenges for not being the best players, shall we say. So yeah, that was dramatic as always. Thieves was down there for some time. Now he's in the league, of course, on the Los Angeles Thieves. Thought this is an interesting stat as well. Thieves nearly has more wins this stage at 5 than he did in the entirety of last year on Gorillas. Thieves' 5-1 record is currently their best stage in franchise history, which is kind of remarkable in a way, right? Because even Thieves, when they had their great team of Octane, Drazah, Kenny and Envoy, they were never that good online. They would often go, sometimes they'd be awful online, they go 0-5, but they were never great in that domain. They always turned up when they went to LAN. But this Thieves team 5-1, they play OpTic, of course, on Sunday to potentially go to 6-1. I wouldn't say that's impossible the way that they're currently playing. Of course, they would be underdogs in that scenario. And speaking of those teams, the New York Subliners now, in terms of points standings, are closer to the Los Angeles Thieves than they are to FaZe, which maybe is accepted or expected, shall we say, given the fact that New York did terribly at Major 1, so they don't have the points. But also you've got to consider Thieves haven't even won a match on LAN this year, and yet still they're closer to New York than New York are to FaZe right now. So therefore there's been lots of talk what's going wrong with New York. This weekend, New York played Toronto. That I think is going to be quite telling how that series goes. And yeah, if Toronto win, bit of a statement. It depends how the series goes really in terms of what we can read into it, but Toronto will want to win for momentum going into their home major, but nobody wants to lose. These are Skyz's numbers as well. He has the third longest active streak with a 1.0 KD. I think that it's probably HyDra and Cellium above this. Although I may be wrong on that, but a 13 in a row streak dating back to Major 1 2022. I think Skyz is just like always Skyz. I think you know what you're getting from Skyz every single time that he turns up to the server. The question to me on New York is really more the Sib and the Kismet angle. But last weekend, OpTic played 2 series. They beat Los Angeles Grillers, and of course earlier on they took down Boston in 5. Kenny says super duper mentally checked. All I gotta say is the way that was handled was terrible. So we saw some evidence of this at the time. Of course, we saw, you know, these videos of Kenny clearly lagging in this crutchy hardpoint game 1 against Boston, getting deeply frustrated, understandably, obviously. As a result, online COD cheese is back at it again. And we saw Pred explain what had happened. They tested the servers in the pre-game kind of warm-up situation. They weren't working properly. They wanted to make some changes. But this is what Kenny says happened from his POV on the matter, because they turned up very early to get the server stuff sorted. There were problems. The referees, though, were telling OpTic, no, it's not on our end. It's your fault.
People actually don't think, I mean, people know that we lag because of the video, but I don't think people understand how much I lagged in the first, like, well, it was the whole series because I had to play through lag the whole series because it got to the point where it got to the point where like we couldn't even do anything about it, so we just had to play it out. But the first map, like all right, we're gonna explain it. So what happened? This is how it happened. We do the test server, and the test server is the test ping to see which server we're gonna play on versus the team. And the test server, I'm lagging so bad. It's not this one. It's like the one before this one. I'm lagging so bad that like I can't even move my character. So I'm not even like playing in the test server. And basically what I'm getting right here in this clip is what I was getting the whole time. And so we told the league, yo, Ken's lagging. What are we going to do about it? They said they don't see anything on their side. So we're trying to figure out on our side what it is. I'm having people go through my PC. We're changing out PCs.
We didn't even get time to warm up.
Yeah,
also.
we don't even warm up.
We had to chalk our warm up
versus Toronto, but we had to chalk that because
taking like 45 minutes. All this to an hour.
I got here 2 hours early. I'm always here like hella early to make sure if shit goes wrong, I'm good. But we couldn't figure anything out. Match is about to start. So before the match, I'm like, yo, ref, by the way, I've been lagging all day. If I start lagging, I'm going to let you know. First 30 seconds, I die one time. I start instantly froze. I'm like, yo, ref, I'm lagging, by the way. He goes, I hear you.
Yeah, so we're like, oh,
so I'm like, oh, okay, cool. When you get I hear you, usually the game ends in like 3 or 4 seconds after. So I'm playing through. I'm still lagging. But like, we're all trying to just stay composed. We're like, yo, just keep playing, just keep playing. I'm like, all right, cool. I'll just keep playing. It gets to, I've said it again after a P3. Yo, I'm lagging. Still no response on the ref. P4 is now spawning up. I said, yo, ref, I'm lagging, by the way. No response. So I just left. Yeah. Now, you're not supposed to lead a game, and I know that. That's why I prefaced it by saying, yo, I'm lagging. I'm going to let you know. So when I hear you, like, am I supposed to just sit there and be AFK the whole time? Like, at that point, what's the point? Like, I might as well just leave. So
I wonder why they didn't pause the game.
That, bro, they can't, because you can't pause and response. You only get pause.
Really?
They used to be able to, remember?
Yeah, you used to be able to do that. I swear.
But that was MW, and then they stopped they took it out the game.
No, you can pause. It's only in the countdowns. And only in the countdowns.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Because remember in Control, in Control they did it like 1-1. It was 1-1.
Yeah, you can't do that.
I remember that actually.
But yeah, no, I think that's crazy, man. Like the fact that we gave him evidence, did all this bullshit.
Yeah. No.
It's just that's just the crazy part. Like
it's we literally did this. Like, what's the point of doing the server test? As if we're literally testing it out. We literally said we were lagging.
Yeah.
We gave him, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
we gave them proof and everything, but like they don't see anything on their side, so it's like our fault.
Yeah,
but
playing the match.
But I feel like the issue I tweeted and said it was handled the wrong ways because they were trying to blame, like they were technically blaming us because they were saying like it's not on our end, it's got to be on y'all end. But then also like we're like working to fix it and they're rushing us. Like, yo, we got like y'all got like 2 or 3 minutes on your timer. Like, you need to join the game. I'm like, bro, like I'm literally can't play. Like, what do you want me to do? So then we just played the whole series lagging. It was just like what it was, and that's why online is just so
It's just
stupid.
so funny because like
So this is when all that replay drama happens, right? Because Kenny then leaves the game, which you're not meant to do, and Boston were like, hey, he left the game, that should be a forfeit. But Kenny understandably was like, hey guys, you basically said you were going to pause it, or at least indicated that was going to be the case, or end the game to do a replay anyway. Clearly this ain't working. But yeah, the referee was like, yeah, I hear you, Ken, but we ain't doing anything about it, baby. You have got to play on. Kenny then obviously left the game because he was seemingly unplayable from that PFE, and sometimes it was okay, sometimes it wasn't, and it's kind of unclear where the issue was. The CDL guys were saying, well, on our ends, it doesn't look like there's any problems with this server, it's something on your ends, but, you know, I don't know, did they change the server afterwards and it fixed itself? Maybe, but Kenny was then saying that they were lagging for the rest of the series, so maybe it was an OpTic end and after on Kenny's PC or something after all, which is kind of confusing, but you would have thought the referees would have tried something else, right? Like, if they've been trying for 45 minutes, and sure, maybe on their end, on their kind of laptop or whatever they've got, that has a look at the data, they can see that, you know, Kenny's account is working fine. If it's not working for him, then surely you would at least think to change and try a different server and see what the problem actually is, whether the data isn't getting picked up properly, or at least then it would tell Kenny for sure that it was on his end if they tried a different server and it was still a similar thing happening. Just kind of confusing, right? But yeah, OpTic frustrated that the way that it got handled, but also the fact that they were effectively getting told by the referees, yeah, like it's your guys' fault, there's nothing we can do about it, just play on type thing, which is online COD cheese at the end of the day, but, you know, they don't want to lose for no good reason, they want to get a good practice in, and it's not the end of the world if they lose that series to Boston, right? They've got all the points they need, but they want to ensure that where they're playing any team, they at least are on a level playing field and it's a fair match, they can get proper practice in. So yeah, dramatic stuff for sure, and of course it does very much call into question again the decision making of the referees, right? We saw this earlier in the season back at the end of February when the Boston guys, when Asim was there, and of course, okay, the names and the numbers are wrong, but this is because it's taken from like a back end thing, but you know, you guys remember this clip at the time when the referee was doing the dishes in the background with his mic on, not even on mute, and you know, obviously Boston go on to lose this map and they get comebacked on, and it's an absolute disaster, right? And this caused lots of drama at the time, like what do these referees even get paid for? And now we're hearing stories from Kenny that they're not necessarily making the best decision. So does call into question the integrity of this league to some degree. But let's talk about what's going to happen later on today. Quickly, I don't think there's any top 4 games this weekend, apart from Toronto and New York actually. So yeah, there is one on the Sunday. But these are the KDs against the top 4. So over 54 maps, Cell has a 1.2, Scrap has a 1.14. This is, of course, against the other top 4 selection of teams. If you are on a top 4 team, but actually even Geo and Gunless and Gwyn and, you know, even like a Capsidal and Lins and Nero as well, technically have a positive KD against those 4 teams while not being on them, which is reasonably impressive. For OpTic, I think Pred is actually here, right, at a 1.04, which maybe is not maybe surprising, but we know that he tends to struggle against FaZe, but not really the other 2 teams. Kenny has a 0.98, Dashy a 0.93, Shotzzy 0.92 against the other top 4. But, you know, this is kind of biased to some degree because they've played New York in some series, and New York play for kills. We know that that's true certainly against OpTic. So OpTic do play a pretty fundamental playstyle where the KD doesn't really tell the entire picture of how well they're performing against a certain team. But we do have some games, of course, for this evening. Method's also uploaded the full Pro Gamer versus 20 Girls. I like that he said Dashy edition, which kind of makes me think that, you know what, maybe TJ Halley edition might be coming soon, Ben J. Nassim edition, or whatever, and I'm sure it's going to be great content. We do have this game this evening, Carolina versus Minnesota Rocker. Quite fascinating circumstances here, actually, because there is this game, Carolina, Minnesota, and Los Angeles Guerrillas, Miami. Both of these games are very simple win and in scenarios. If you win this series, you're into the winners bracket. If you lose, you're going down to losers. Vegas versus Boston, both of those guys are already in the losers bracket, but still, we shall see whether Vegas actually, with Johnny, look any better, whether Boston could do anything. Surely if Boston are going to win a series, it's got to be this one. Then Ravens, Minnesota. Very interesting because Ravens, I think Clay is going to be back in the penthouse facility with the boys. boys. So I actually do think I would favor Ravens in this one. Minnesota could win. If Minnesota are going to win, I think they'll win in 5. I think Ravens, though, have slightly more win conditions, so I'm going to lean their way, and I'm going to say they're going to make winners, and Minnesota are going to start and losers. And then FaZe Surge, kind of looking forward to this one, because Seattle played well yesterday against Thieves. They actually look, they're a lot of fun to watch right now, Surge. I really do think that they are, and they're definitely better than when they had RCs on the team. It's probably not going to be enough against FaZe, but we'll see how FaZe handle business here, like whether it's a smoke show or whether Surge can actually put up some degree of a competitive fight. But very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.